Welcome to the Oli and Danny Podcast. We're your hosts, a husband and wife team with 23 years of marriage, 2 amazing kids, and plenty of stories and wisdom to share. Every day we're here with fresh episodes tackling your letters and emails about love, relationships, and family life. From tough decisions to heartfelt dilemmas, we bring honest advice, relatable stories, and a touch of humor to help you navigate it all. So whether you're on a morning commute, taking a break, or winding down after a long day, tune in for your daily dose of real issues and real solutions. This is the Oli and Danny Podcast, where love, laughter, and life lessons come together. Welcome to the episode.
Welcome to the Oli and Danny Podcast. So we have another episode and another couple in trouble.
Well, they're in a little trouble, but I wouldn't say big trouble. The letter says, "Dear Oli and Dan, my husband and I have been together for 6 years, and one of the things I've always loved about him is how much we've shared in terms of lifestyle and values. He's black and I'm white, but we've never really focused much on our differences. We've always just been us, a couple who loves binge watching shows, going to the pub, and spending weekends hiking with friends. But lately, things have changed. Over the past year or so, he's started reconnecting with his African roots, and it's like he's becoming a completely different person. He's listening to music in languages I don't understand, cooking traditional African dishes, and even dressing differently, wearing clothing inspired by his culture. He's also spending more time with other people from his community, which has left me feeling like an outsider in our own relationship. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against him connecting with his culture. I know it's important and I want to support him, but this wasn't who he was when we met. He used to joke about how he was more English than most of my friends, and that's the person I fell in love with. Now it feels like I'm losing that version of him, and I don't know where I fit in anymore. Whenever I bring it up, he gets defensive. The other day, he said, "This is who I've always been. I'm just embracing it now. Why are you trying to make me feel bad for being myself?" That's not what I'm trying to do. I just feel like we're becoming strangers and I don't know how to bridge the gap. I'm scared that this is going to drive us apart. How do I support him while also being honest about how this makes me feel? I love him, but I miss the version of us that felt more connected.
Okay, this is a particularly tough one because from what I can tell, it sounds like you guys got married and you were under the impression that he was closer to your culture than he was to his own. And now, of course, he is somewhat heading towards his own culture. I can definitely understand the frustration from your part that comes with it. But here's the deal. There's nothing wrong with learning about someone else's culture that you are essentially in a relationship with. The fact that he was closer to your culture on meeting is a good thing. It makes things incredibly easy for you. But now he is making a different decision, and I think he has the right to be supported. Now, that said, it's important for you to also establish some boundaries, because I can see here that your expectations have been let down, and maybe it's time that you drew some boundaries and said, well, this is as far as I'm willing to go with this whole journey. Whilst I support you wholeheartedly, I do not want this to upset our existing shared values. And that is a sort of boundary set so that it doesn't turn out to be a low-key cultural imperialistic position for you. So you don't end up completely overwhelmed and exploring every aspect of a culture that you probably don't fully understand yourself. So there's going to be a learning curve here, but there's also going to be a lot of you being understanding and supportive and not very critical. That's a good place to start.
That is absolutely right. There will be some learning involved for both of you. He's obviously at the point where he's learning about his culture. You being his wife, because it's something that he's interested in, you are going to have to go along for that ride. The thing is, when we marry someone, we're not just signing up for who they are on the day we marry them or prior to that point when we first met them up until the point we marry them. That's not who we're marrying. We're marrying all their possibilities. Hence the vows, for better or for worse. That's not to say that if someone is intent on being the worst version of themselves, you have to stay and deal with that perpetually. But marrying someone means that you're saying to them, I'm along for the ride. Wherever this life takes us, it's gonna be me and you. In his case, he wants to explore his culture. I don't know what the situation is, whether he was separated from his culture early on. For some people, reconnecting with culture brings a sense of identity, a sense of empowerment. I don't know whether that is the case for him. Maybe that's something that you need to explore. Maybe you need to have deep conversations with him about why now? What is it that this cultural reconnection or connection does for him that nothing else has before? That way he can explain to you what this means to him, what his motivations are, and what he needs from you in terms of support. It could be that he doesn't really need much, maybe only for you to taste the dishes that he cooks, or be open to trying a few fashion items. Maybe you don't even need to wear them outside the house if you're not comfortable doing that. Obviously you are going to have to decide what your own boundaries are around how much you participate. But I would say to you, don't be scared about being left behind. Don't worry about it. Go with it. He is still who he has always been. He's not going to change. He's simply exploring another side of himself. And as human beings, we are very multifaceted, and it's okay for him to be able to explore that.
I'll also definitely say that be genuinely interested in what he's doing. So don't go along just because it's your obligation to go along, or you feel like you're under pressure to go along. In other words, try and be genuinely interested, because sometimes perhaps that's what that individual is needing, just someone to be interested in the other side of their culture. In the times that we live in now, it can be quite challenging for people who come from different cultures. It sounds like you guys are a mixed relationship, and if you are, then it can be challenging sometimes, especially for the person coming from outside the Western cultural frame. So just be mindful of that and express an interest. That way the person knows that they are being seen within their own family, and there's perhaps no reason for them to introduce an additional layer of maybe cultural appropriation, I suppose is the word. Forgive me if I'm using the wrong word, but ultimately they don't need to bring any kind of repression into their own household. So again, you being very genuine about the experience and showing the interest should definitely help. But that's pretty much all I've got to say about this, because it's a really, really difficult situation to tackle, because it's to do with race and identity.
So I think you've done really well, Jane, in terms of identifying what it is that you're feeling, clarifying your own feelings to yourself. That's really important. I think the next step beyond this is to communicate those feelings in a constructive, open way with your husband. So use statements like I feel, I would like. Try to create opportunities for both of you to reestablish common ground again with things that maybe you enjoyed in the past. I'm sure that even with his exploration of his culture, there have got to be things that you still both enjoy that you used to do before. Reestablish common ground with those things. In episode 5, we gave a blueprint for how to have an open, honest conversation. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back, click on it, listen to it. It will give you a really great idea of how to start these difficult conversations, because often it's not that we don't know what we're feeling, it's that communicating it sensitively so that we get the desired responses, or maybe not the desired responses, but certainly the answers to our questions, reassurance, plan in terms of moving forward, can sometimes be difficult. So go back to episode 5, listen to that blueprint for open, honest conversation, and try that. And I really hope that works for you guys.
Okay, so that's all we have for you today. Don't forget, if you've got issues, email us at Oli and Danny Podcast 101@gmail.com. We love to get your letters. Till the next episode, adios.
Ciao guys, see you in the next one.